in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The detectives got here. It was the FBI agent in Santa Cruz County, and they told me I was being detained for kidnapping. And I asked them, like, well, kidnapping of who? And they told me this lady, I don't know her name. And
Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, that's her. And I told them I work in Tucson for GLS. I might have delivered a package to your house, but I never kidnapped anybody.
Kind of like that guy. I like anybody in America who has not been following the Nancy Guthrie story. God bless her. I wanted her to be found, but enough is enough.
Yeah, and also the incredible conspiracy theory industry that has now been created based on this. I want to throw 3 quick cases out to the American public to let you know that it's most likely that whoever is responsible for this had no idea who Nancy Guthrie or Savannah Guthrie is. By the way, Savannah Guthrie is not Katie Couric. This isn't 1995 in the Today Show. I don't think most Americans have ever heard of Savannah Guthrie, let alone her mother. But 3 cases of celebrities, relatives who were either killed or attacked, and it turned out they had no idea who they were. Ennis Cosby, person who killed him on the side of the road, was just trying to get a fancy car.
The son of Bill Cosby.
Yeah, the son of Bill
That was
Cosby.
it wasn't a kidnapping. It was like a drive-by,
yeah.
And it was just terrible. God, that kid was so good.
Yeah. Not a targeted killing, just somebody on the side of the road who was vulnerable.
But it was a national story.
That was a national story.
Huge.
Very sad.
The guy is still in jail. I think he's like from Russia or someplace like that.
Right, that's right. It was like Eastern European or Russia. For those of you old enough to remember Patrick Duffy, the heartthrob on Dallas, his parents owned a bar and grill in Montana. They were shot by a couple of robbers with shotguns at the height of the popularity of the show. People thought, oh, they must have known this guy was... They had no idea. They were just doing a holdup. And the worst one of them all, James Jordan, the father of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
The Chicago Sun-Times, this is before social media and the internet. The Chicago Sun-Times put in their hard copy paper an article by one of their sports reporters saying this is probably because of gambling and gambling debts. There was no truth to any of that. It was 2 Native American boys who wanted to steal a Lexus and play with one of those old brick cell phones. So everyone needs to take a break on this. Savannah Guthrie is not a very famous person in America. I'm sorry, she's not. Well, it doesn't mean that that's a targeted thing.
Look, actually, I agree that those are really interesting cases. Mr. Jordan, Lumberton, North Carolina. I was actually living in North Carolina at the time, and it's a regular town, and he was a regular guy, and it was just terrible, and he was, beautiful car. I actually thought that it was ultimately the spoils of his son's success, in a way. The Lexus stood out in Lumberton. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great sermon on Sunday. But it had nothing. But in other words, it wasn't targeted. They didn't know it was
targeted.
James
But
Jordan. Yeah.
When you sit around and you think about it, like, okay, if he weren't that successful in basketball, his dad probably wouldn't have had a Lexus, and he probably wouldn't have been pulled over and killed. I think Savannah Guthrie, I understand the interest. I do. I was, I'm interested in it as well. But at some point, we have to say, cool it. We just have to say, we're not going to find her, or we are going to find her, but it's up to the investigators, not us. I think she's household name famous. That's one of the reasons why. Look, she had the town hall with Trump, and I'll give her credit. She's one of the few in the fake news who went after Biden hard. I think that's kind of sleazy. Burisma and your son, you remember that?
Yeah, okay, that's true.
And Joe went down her throat. But look, there's a lot of fake news. She's a little bit fake news, but not totally fake news. And we'll see. We'll see. All right. Now, having said we're not going to talk about it anymore, what do you really think happened? I mean, I still think she could be in the house, which I know is, people get very upset, but I found numerous cases where famous kidnappings and they were found in the basement, in the crawl space. It's weird, but it happens. What do you think?
I think this was basically looking at a very wealthy home in the middle of nowhere. Originally we were told that there were a lot of homes like this in the very close vicinity. That's not true. We've learned now that it was very isolated. You talked about James Jordan and the Lexus sticking out like a sore thumb in Lumberton. This very fancy estate must have been a major magnet for bad dudes who want to get money and things like that. And I think I think that they were pretty amateur. And now they just, it'll be, I think we'll find out soon what happened. But I think this was about money. I don't think this was about any politics, any revenge. I think this was a rich woman in a rich house in the middle of nowhere where there aren't a lot of other rich people.
I mean, the house didn't look like all that to me, to be honest.
We're jaded Manhattanites.
I lived in Yuma, Arizona, and almost everybody has a pool, right?
Yeah,
everybody, you can work at whatever job, everybody had a pool. It's a one-story house. It's kind of an Adobe type thing. It doesn't scream wealth to me. And Annie, the sister, she lives like in a $600,000 house, which is very nice, but it's not like $40 million. And I don't know. And, let's face it, the sister, I don't want to say she may have been in on it, but why the hell is the FBI searching your house 16 times? What the hell?
She may have had a friend or an employee. It's kind of like one of those things like when you tell your kids what a code is for your alarm. You got to remind them, don't tell your friends, don't tell the guy who, it could be very easy. It's not going to be 6 degrees of separation, Greg. That's for sure.